Welcome back. In this episode, we are going to be taking a look at Sega Dreamcast shoot-'em-ups. The Dreamcast was blessed with a lot of great games, and the shoot-'em-up category is covered fairly well on the system. We're going to be taking a look at 8 games. Let's get started. In late 2001, Psikyo would release Zero Gunner 2 on the Dreamcast. This port of the Naomi-based arcade version was a direct sequel to the 1997 Model 2 arcade game that never saw a home release. Once again, you take control of one of 3 helicopters in a fully polygonal environment that allows you to rotate 360 degrees and attack in any direction. Zero Gunner 2 is a vastly superior game to the first in virtually every way. The graphics take advantage of the Dreamcast with smooth textures, an awesome frame rate, and great background depth. The soundtrack is strong as well, and constantly changes based on what's going on in the stage. The gameplay is unique, with its 360-degree control rotation scheme, and you'll need it on harder difficulties, as enemies and bullets will fill the screen from every imaginable angle. Unfortunately, Zero Gunner 2 is not a cheap game, and can easily run you around $150 for a mint copy. Comparatively to some of the Saturn's high-price shooters, that's not bad, but I still recommend playing it before you invest that kind of funds. Late 1999 would bring us the Takumi classic, Giga Ween. Published by Capcom and developed on the CPS2 arcade hardware, this Dreamcast port is one of the best shooters on the system, in my opinion. Graphical presentation is solid, with a ton of stuff on screen, and great details in the backgrounds and sprites. The music is quite good too, and kicks the game into high gear when things get hectic. The game is loaded with options as well, giving you the ability to customize the game to your particular needs. Giga Ween is an expensive game, but not so much that it's grotesque. In fact, I've recently seen Japanese auctions go for as little as $40, and it's worth every penny of that. There was a direct sequel to Giga Ween done on the Dreamcast as well, but I think we'll save that one for next time. In early 2000, success would bring Rainbow Cotton to the Dreamcast. For the second time in the series, the game would go third person, and much like the prior release Panorama Cotton, it would be met with extremely divisive views. To put it in perspective, Rainbow Cotton plays a bit like Panzer Dragoon in this release, sans any control over the camera. You are on rails, tasked with the job of simply shooting the enemies as you move along the predetermined path. The 3D graphics are serviceable and smooth, and the music is tried and true Cotton through and through. The game has a ton of flaws, however. First, the attack you have feels underpowered and lacks any ability to clear the screen reliably. Enemies will pass by you constantly, seemingly with no way to actually kill them all. In fact, it is better to avoid enemies than to try and clear them out. This gives the game a sense of cowardice, as you feel more like you are running and dodging instead of owning the battlefield and crushing your foes. This is in stark contrast to Cotton 2 and Boomerang, which rewarded aggressive play incredibly well. Rainbow Cotton isn't a terrible game, it's just not what many people wanted after the incredible Saturn releases. Mars Matrix would be another Capcom and Takumi joint, released in late 2000 on the Dreamcast. The arcade version again utilized the CPS2 board, and this Dreamcast port easily brings it home fully intact. Using an experience and combo system to make your ships more powerful, Mars Matrix is a solid entry into the genre. Graphically, there isn't anything overly impressive here, and games like Giga Ween are far better looking in my opinion. But the game is fast and hectic, and fans of shooters that ramp up difficulty quickly should be quite happy with what Mars Matrix has to offer. Huge, frantic boss battles, and screen-filling enemies highlight this solid and relatively difficult 2D shooter. Border Down is a late 2003 Dreamcast release by G-Rev. This Naomi arcade port is perhaps the Dreamcast's most unique shoot-'em-up, and has a system unlike anything else on the console. Utilizing a border system for difficulty, the player must choose a green, yellow, or red route throughout the stage, each corresponding to a much harder difficulty. Choose the red route and the enemies will be aggressive and fill the screen with death. If killed on this difficulty, the player will border down to the next lower difficulty and have another try. This creates incredible replay value and can keep you coming back for hours trying to master the various routes. Border Down is also a fantastic looking game with incredible depth and polygonal architecture filling the screen at all times. The soundtrack is also fun and flows with the action extremely well. Due to Border Down's late release, however, the game was sold in small quantities and has been soaked up by resellers from day one. This has made the game very expensive, regularly going for $200 and $300 depending on condition and completeness. Cannon Spike was first released by Sega and Capcom in late 2000 and was yet another Naomi arcade port. This boss rush arena shooter was the very definition of weirdness. It features characters from the Capcom universe of games, tasked with killing enemies and bosses of various themes in small arena-style stages. After the initial wave of minions have been felled, a boss character will drop in and need to be killed to move on to the next level. The graphics in Cannon Spike are decent, with detailed enemies and a solid frame rate. The arenas leave a lot to be desired, however, and lack any real wow factor or depth that otherwise could have given the game more personality. The gameplay is admittedly fun as hell though, and it's a great game to just pick up and play for 20 minutes at a time. Like most games on this list, Cannon Spike is an expensive game, and you'll pay well over $100 for a decent condition copy. In early 2000, Sega and Capcom would yet again team up and bring us the arcade port Gunbird 2 for the Dreamcast. If you've played the first game in the series, you know what to expect here. Hand-drawn 2D graphics fill the screen with superb animation and color, making it one of the best looking games of its type on the Dreamcast. The soundtrack is also solid, with a good mix of fast and slow tracks that add great overall depth to the presentation. Gameplay offers nothing specifically unique or new to the genre, but remains fast and responsive otherwise. The game does ramp up the difficulty in the second stretch of levels, with far denser enemy attacks challenging the player. A ton of difficulty settings give every player of varying skills a shot though. Gunbird 2 is also not an overly expensive game, with some auctions going in the $50 to $60 range. Vangaia was released in late 1999 on the Dreamcast, and was a port of the Nintendo 64 game of the same name. Developed by Treasure, this multi-directional shooter is as simple as they come. Destroy everything on screen, collect as much as possible, and kill the boss. The Dreamcast improves upon the N64 release in nearly every way. It looks better, sounds better, and has more configuration options as well as tweaked gameplay and scoring. It also has less slowdown in normal combat, although the Dreamcast version can still slow down heavily during special attack bursts. Vangaia is also not going to nuke your wallet, and can be gotten well under $100 regularly in great condition. Of all the games here in this episode, it is likely the one that is different than anything else you've played before. Treasure games were kind of like that, and this one is definitely worth your time. Now, much like the Sega Saturn before it, the Dreamcast is absolutely loaded with shooters worth picking up. And much like the Saturn before it, these games tend to be the system's more expensive games. I mean, even the lower end of these games tend to be $50 to $100. So if you have the means to play them before you buy them, I really do recommend that you do it that way. Also, this is a very small sample of the genre on the system. To be perfectly honest with you, there are probably 3 or 4 of these videos that I can do. So if you'd like to see more Dreamcast shooters, let me know down in the comments. I am Sega Lord X. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you next time.